So Travis
against
Luger,
Anderson Silva, I remember.
he missed weight, but I was backstage for all of it, right? So this was back when the weigh-ins were the time of the actual weigh-ins. It wasn't the ceremonial weigh-in. Like now, they give him more time. You can weigh in the morning, and then by the ceremonial weigh-in, which is usually 5 p.m., usually these guys have significantly rehydrated. They do it slowly, but they have a process to it. But Travis missed weight, and so I was backstage while they gave him X amount of time to make the weight. And dude, he couldn't walk. He was shuffling. Like he couldn't pick his legs up. His lips were cracked.
Yeah.
His face was dry. He looked like he was gonna die. He looked like a guy who had been shipwrecked, and like lost at sea and just drinking his own piss for a week. And they finally rescued him. That's what it looked like.
Well, I think he was dying, I guess, right? I mean, that is what you're looking at.
And then 24 hours later, he has to fight the greatest middleweight of all time. He has to fight Anderson motherfucking Silva in his prime.
And for that being the story, did remarkably well in the fight. I mean, he got viciously elbowed. He was elbowed in the triangle. Yeah, it was hard.
That would not have happened if Travis wasn't compromised. Travis was a real problem back then.
Yeah.
He was one of the best jiu-jitsu guys to ever compete in MMA.
And he was stylistically kind of like the best shot against Anderson Silva at that time.
Exactly.
And because Anderson Silva just looked untouchable. And he got him down.
Yeah.
He got him into good positions a few times.
Even though he was fucked from the weight cut. But the thing was, he never made the weight, so even if he beat him, he wouldn't have got the title.
Yeah.
The whole thing was fucked.
Yeah.
But it's like I've advocated for, there's a solution. One of them is multiple weight classes that are additional to what we have. Have one at least every 10 pounds, and it probably should be more. And a lot of people push back against that, but listen, 10 pounds for an elite athlete is a big fucking deal. 20 pounds is crazy. So when you go like 85 to 205, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's too much weight. It's too much of a gap. You could have multiple champions in between those weight classes, and it's just better for the sport overall. You've got more champions, you've got more champion versus champion matchups you can make.
Well, it also, first of all, it's very unhealthy and dangerous, and that's the biggest issue. But then it also makes it a thing where it's like, now there's two factors. It's not just who's the best fighter. It's also who's the best at dehydrating themselves, losing a ton of weight, and rehydrating themselves. And also, I think, like I've heard GSP say before that like some people are just naturally better at that.
Yep.
Some people just fluctuate in weight more. Some people can lose a lot of weight and then gain it all back the other day. And he used to always say, I just can't do that. Like I'm not a guy who can do that. But I think all of it, we just want to see who the best fighter is.
Exactly.
We don't care about who's the best at dehydrating.
Anything that hampers your ability should be removed from the equation, especially if it's something like this. But there's a solution. First of all, there's a real silliness to the MMA weight classes. And when I say silliness, our names that we use have been owned by boxing for more than 100 years, and the names that we use are for different weight classes than boxing uses.
Yeah.
That's dumb.
Yeah.
That is dumb as shit. Like, if you want to have a 170-pound champion, fantastic, but don't call it a welterweight. Because welterweight is 147.
Right.
It's been 147 for over 100 fucking years. The fact that you have a 147 champion and you call that, or 145 champion, you call that a featherweight. Featherweight is 126.
Yeah.
That's what it's been in boxing forever. Lightweight has always been 135. That's what Julio Cesar Chavez was the champ of. 135. 135. Lightweight's 155 in the UFC. Like, come up with your own names.
Yeah.
Why do we still have these stupid names?
I've never thought about that. It's a good point.
They attached these names to it when they first started developing weight classes, because it used to just be one weight class.
Oh, another one on this. Why, and I think you've mentioned this before, why am I not getting the leg reach?
They do that sometimes.
Do they?
Yeah, they do.
Because I've seen but on the regular tail of the tape, it'll still just be reach.
Yeah.
It's like, but in this, because that actually, for MMA, that's such a huge deal.
Sure.
Like, it's such a huge, because, if
you're kicking.
Yeah, if you're in kicking range of me, but you know what I mean? But you can't touch me, your jab doesn't matter as much as in boxing, you know?
Right. And some guys, they have really long legs for their torso. And like my friend Larry Jones from my Taekwondo days, he had this short torso. What is this?
Reaches longer than Stipe's.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Is that right?
That's crazy. Stipe just has a way longer torso? That's nuts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, Aldo was such a good kicker. It's really part of the reason why. My friend Larry had this short torso, like really short torso. He was like 6'3", and he was all legs, and he was this insane kicker. He was like a freak, like he was made in a lab. And when guys would fight him, like we'd see guys in tournaments fight him, they'd be like, what the fuck am I going to do with this? Because his reach was so nuts. And he was so fast with his kicks, and you couldn't get anywhere close to him if you were in his weight class and you were normally built.
Right.
He was built, his torso was shorter than mine, but he has crazy long legs and long arms.
Yeah,
Like some people are just built certain ways, and for striking, it's a giant problem. There's another thing that makes Ilya Topuria so fucking unbelievably impressive. He's not tall at all.
Yeah.
You know, and he's just flatlining people.
Oh, I mean, Charles Oliveira looked so much bigger than him in that fight.
And so much bigger than Max, too.
Yeah.
Oliveira's big. It's like, look, the sport's fine. It's not in trouble. The sport's not in trouble. The heavyweight division's in trouble. The heavyweight division's kind of fucked. It's in a weird situation. The Alex Pereira thing is very interesting. Alex Pereira versus Cyril Gane is very, very, very interesting because Cyril Gane is a problem. That guy's a problem. He's super athletic. He's really fast. He's super skillful with his striking. His Muay Thai is absolutely elite. And he does a lot of things different than what a lot of people do.
And has anyone, because even Francis, like I was saying before, grappled with him a lot in that fight. Obviously, John Jones took him down and choked him. But has anyone really stood toe-to-toe and beat him up?
No one's beat him up toe-to-toe. Tai Tuivasa went toe-to-toe with him and tried to, but he got lit up.
Yeah.
Dude, Cyril Gane is a problem.
And even in the little bit with Tom Aspinall, it looked like he's tough. He's tough to fight like that, man.
Not just tough, he was like getting off on Aspinall, and it didn't look good for Aspinall. I mean, it's very unfortunate that he got his eyes poked. I mean, that we really never got to see what happens if you drag Cyril in deep water. The way Tom would adjust it for the second round or third round.
Which we've never really seen out of Tom either. It was very interesting that we got robbed of that, you know.
Yeah, we got robbed of that. And poor Tom, he's had 2 fucking eye surgeries, and then he felt like the UFC disrespected him. The whole thing's a mess.
Well, I don't know about the UFC, but a lot of fans did disrespect him. I saw that, which is crazy. It's just like, this is really stupid.
We talked about this last night. It should be 1 point, period, if you poke somebody in the eyes. If you poke somebody in the eyes, 1 point. Well, especially if the fingers go in the eyes. If it's like a glancing thing like that, maybe get a warning. But in a nut shot, straight nut shot, 1 point. The glancing thing, maybe a warning. I think that could be up to the judge's discretion upon view of the replay.
Yeah, well, the thing is that, and we were talking about this last night, if you land a nut shot and it's accidental, as it almost always is, you know what I mean? You're trying to throw an inside leg kick and it comes up close. Well, okay, maybe not. I said almost always. But so I just see this all the time in MMA. It's the first one. It was an accident. This guy gets kicked in the nuts. He needs a few minutes. Usually they don't take the full 5 or whatever they're offered, and then you just go back. It's like, look, even if it was an accident, that's such an advantage to the guy who kicked him in the groin.
Yeah, you hurt him.
You hurt this guy, and now he's got to get back to it, and there's no... So, like, it does seem like there almost has to be some accounting for that, and I think there's still... It's still a very young sport. I think there is still too much referee discretion. Like, there's too much, like... There should be, like, an official rule for what we do in this situation.
Especially
not just, like,
those kind of fouls. It's like, doesn't exist in basketball, right?
Yeah.
If somebody fouls somebody in basketball and everybody sees it, that's a foul.
Yes.
Right? And the crowd will go nuts, right? Usually. But it'd be like a real one, like throwing someone to the ground.
I can show you examples. There are some fucking wild things that don't get called for.
Don't you think that's a little bit of the corrupt referees? Yeah. I'm not saying all of them, but that is one thing that's been 100% proven, is that referees do get paid off in order to influence gambling lines.
Yeah, there was that one referee who confirmed that it was the Sacramento Kings versus the Lakers, which was like a series that was like notoriously, like, everyone was like, yo, it was crazy. They didn't call any of these fouls on the Lakers, and they called all these fouls, and then a ref came out and was like, oh yeah, that's weird. And it does kind of make sense, because it was the Shaq and Kobe Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get them in the finals, dude.
Yeah.
It was big money.
God, it's so gross.
His defense weirdly was like, no one told us what to do, but you kind of know what they want, so you sort of do it, and then you keep put on good games and you keep getting the good stuff.
Hang him. Public hanging. Fuck you.
But we can deal with Congress's insider trading, but basketball must be a
bad
fair
judges hanging.
It's
Hang them all in front of the kingdom. All right, dude. Anything else before we wrap this up?
No, thank you for letting a non-expert talk MMA with you so much.
I love talking to non-experts.
Dude, thank you so much for everything, as
My
always,
pleasure,
dude.
brother. Thank
You're the fucking man. I love
You're
you,
the
dude.
fucking man too. I love you too. We'll have fun tonight, right? Are you coming? You leaving?
I gotta go.
You gotta go. Ah, damn, last night was fun.
There was a lot of fun. All right.
Bye, everybody.
Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
What's happening, man? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I watched your documentary, The Alabama Solution, last night, and it was wild. It's very, very disturbing. I'm kind of shocked I hadn't heard more about it, you know, because it's such a terrible, terrible story. It's such a just an unbelievably awful situation, and I think you covered it really well. It's very, very heartbreaking.
Yeah, thanks for watching it. Yeah, it's sort of a question of why people don't know about.
Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
Gentlemen, great to see. Yeah, put them on, slap them on. What's happening? Good to see you, gentlemen, again.
Taking off.
Use Will.
One more time.
Yeah, one more time.
Yeah.
So, what is the latest? Give me the latest. Where are we at?
Why don't you take it, Brian? You just gotta. You are the. You're the most current on where we are, what's going on. Man, there has been a lot of stuff happen in the 15 months since we were here.
Yeah.
I mean, like stunning amount of stuff. So let's not waste any time. Tell them where we're at.
All right. Well, the last time we came to visit with you, I believe, was on December the 27th of 2024. We were just on the front end of having organized 30 committed Texans whose own families had had experiences related to trauma, addiction, alcoholism, and the wounds of the war, who, after hearing a plan that was developed for the state of Kentucky to bring Ibogaine to the American people as an FDA-approved medication and breakthrough treatment for addiction and trauma, committed themselves to using their time, their talent, and their network to achieve what had never been done before, and that was to convince an individual state to undertake drug development to create a therapeutic medical breakthrough for public health crises within its borders that are representative of the national reality. After you released the interview with us on January 2nd, 2025, we pursued a 5.5-month blistering campaign to convince 188 blank slate Texas legislators to fund the single largest psychedelic research and medical development project in history, that being the $50 million Texas Ibogaine Initiative. We had the assistance of some in-state allies, one of which was Texans for Greater Mental Health, led by a dear friend and brother of mine, Logan Davidson, who was my right hand, going to meet with legislators continuously while I set up shop at a hotel here in Austin and lived here just about part-time, wearing the shoe leather off, sweating, and making sure that everybody who needed to be introduced, educated, and motivated to get behind this would do so. At the end of this 5.5 months, we secured the votes of yes of 181 out of 188 legislators between the Texas House of Representatives and State Senate. There was one individual who we had to persuade at the 11th hour to get behind this project. On May the 14th, 2025, just 36 hours before the Texas budget was finalized, this bill that would create the first unified FDA drug development trial with Ibogaine in U.S. history was not funded. I woke up that morning and not somebody I believe very much in keeping your prayers in the closet, as Jesus taught, not getting out there parading about it. But on that morning, I got a call and it was, hey, we're getting to the 11th hour. We don't have money to secure this. It may not make it. We've done everything that we can. And I literally got done on walk in here today, literally, just 10 minutes before we walked into your studio, I can confirm that the great state of Texas is going to fully fund the Texas Abigail Initiative, originally intended to be a public-private partnership, but now has decided on its own to commit a full $100 million to launch the development of Ibogaine all the way through the FDA's drug development process for the benefit of the American people. To do so on its own, without any drug development partner, and to do it for the good of humanity.
That's phenomenal. So what did you have to say to Dan Patrick to convince him of this? And kudos to him for doing this.
Well, I had some very wonderful advocates who preceded my meeting.
Was he skeptical?
Oh, he was completely disengaged from the process, highly skeptical as we learned through intermediaries. But we had two wonderful brothers on mission who happened to be twins, Marcus and Morgan Luttrell.
I know Marcus very well.
Marcus and Morgan Luttrell reached out to the Lieutenant Governor. They spoke to him very movingly and personally about their own experiences with Ibogaine, what it had done, not just to save their lives, but what it was doing to save the lives of warfighters who had come to the end of being able to live. And as they explained to him what it did for them and what it has done for their brothers and sisters in arms who've returned to war, to broken government systems that can do nothing to cure what ails them at their core, he was persuaded to have an open-minded conversation. And through that conversation on May the 14th, we essentially went through what science suggests are the powers of the most sophisticated molecule on the planet to resolve physiological substance dependence and thereby create psychology within the human being whereby they believe they have ownership of themselves and their future, and that future will be one defined by choice rather than compulsion. And the most powerful aspect of the Ibogaine argument, not just for the Lieutenant Governor and House Speaker, but for most of these legislators who voted yes, is the experience endorsed by many that Ibogaine confirms without question the reality of our individual human divinity. And that is the greatest truth conveyed by this fabulous plant.
Well put, and I don't think it's just Ibogaine that confirms that. I think you could say the same about many other psychedelic drugs that are unjustly maligned and treated as if they're an escape from reality. But in the interest of this being a standalone podcast for people who don't know what Ibogaine is and don't understand the efficacy of it and how unbelievably effective it is at especially treating addiction, could you please just go over that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So Ibogaine is an alkaloid that is derived from the iboga shrub. The iboga shrub originates in the central Congo Basin. Its native country is modern-day Gabon. It is the mother country of the iboga shrub, which has been used for centuries in the spiritual and cultural traditions of the Bwiti, a group of spiritualists who include the Pygmies as well as the Bantu tribes that live there in Gabon. In the early 60s, it was discovered that Ibogaine and iboga had a significant interruption effect on opioid addiction. There was an individual who had been addicted to heroin for a number of years that took Ibogaine, and not only did they not experience any withdrawal when they stopped taking heroin, they stopped having any desire to use any drug whatsoever. This touched off 60 years of open-label field studies that are mountains high and decades wide that firmly establish that Ibogaine has a unique and singular interruption capacity on physiological substance dependency, whether that's opioids, alcohol, methamphetamine, cocaine, or tobacco. Recent evidence also suggests that it has a significant interruption effect on compulsive behaviors, anything that kind of impacts that brain's dopamine system and produces a rush.
Particularly gambling.
Yes, sir. Now, in 2018, U.S. Special Forces special operators started going to Mexico for treatment of symptoms of traumatic brain injury, expressed through treatment-resistant depression, anxiety, and suicidality. Many of these veterans had gone through So there were some scientists at Stanford University that were funded by a philanthropist who wanted to understand what was going on. And so what we have come to learn through a Stanford research study on traumatic brain injury for vets is that ibogaine has remarkable neuroregenerative capacities on the brain that are unheard of in the annals of Western science. And while information is still very small in amount and preliminary, there are individuals who have had ibogaine treatment for not just traumatic brain injury, but for multiple sclerosis, Lyme disease, Parkinson's disease, post-surgical complications related to a brain tumor who endorse a restoration of functionality and an ability to live that are otherworldly. And as we recognize that the opportunities to improve the human condition at scale are multi-lifetime in appearing, we believe that we have found one of those. And if we're going to do justice to the human species, it is incumbent upon us to take what appears to be a promising therapeutic improvement and deliver it with speed through the U.S. medical systems. And that's what Governor Perry and I have founded Americans for Ibogaine to do. Just that. Achieve the moonshot of our time. And that is to bring ibogaine medicine to the American people as quickly as possible.
Well said. And thank you again, Governor Perry, because if it wasn't for your involvement in this, I think a lot of people would be far more skeptical. You know, you being a former distinguished governor of the state who was a Republican, who, generally speaking, most people think of Republicans as being anti-psychedelics, and that this whole thing is just a bunch of people trying to escape reality and poison their mind and, you know, tune out of society and become losers. That's the general consensus of people that are just, for lack of a better term, ignorant of the effects of these substances. They don't understand it. But if it wasn't for you, your open-mindedness, your willingness to engage in this and try to understand it and to speak to these veterans, I don't think people would be taking it as seriously.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, and thank you. As I watched you over the last 15 months, seemed like every 6 weeks or so, you'd have a guest on here and you'd be talking about ibogaine in particular and what is the progress that we're making.
What comes up so often.
Yeah. Well, and it should.
It should.
It should, because this truly, I mean, this is not what I came into the world for. This is not what I came to politics for. This is what, you know, I got led to this through that relationship with Marcus and in turn Morgan Luttrell, and seeing those two boys literally, particularly Marcus, on the doorstep of committing suicide. When he came to live with us at the governor's mansion in 2007, we had met the year before just by the grace of God. And I told him, I said, if you're ever through Austin, come by and see me, knowing that chances of that would be pretty slim. He knocked on that guard door in May of 07 and said, the governor said if I was ever through here, come by and see him. They called, I let him in for dinner, and my wife, who's a nurse, she recognized this young man who was really troubled, addicted to opioids, masking it with alcohol, really sick. And for the next 2.5 years, he lived with us at the governor's residence.
Wow.
And that started this long journey, literally, with him and trying to find ways to heal him. We sent him to a host of different places. Carrick Brain Center in Dallas. We sent him to what's called now Axios, Athletes Performance in those days, but a great rehab facility down in the panhandle of Florida. And they helped him conquer helped him manage the opioid addiction. I will suggest to you, until he was treated with ibogaine, which did clean that completely away from him some years later. But the point is, he really struggled, and he has become like our son. As a matter of fact, I talked to him this morning. He said, be sure and tell Joe howdy for me. Yeah, he just thinks the world of you as well. I talked to his brother the day before. They understand how powerful this compound is from the standpoint of treating post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, addictions. This, and as I became convinced, one of the things that I will say that I've been open to change, just like criminal justice reform. In the early 2000s, I was kind of like, lock their ass up, throw the key under the jail. You break the law in the state of Texas, here's how we treat you. And I had a district judge in Fort Worth, John Crusoe, a Democrat district judge, who I knew and had been friends with. He said, Governor, we got a program here that allows these individuals who have broken the law, they maybe, got caught with an illegal substance or what have you. And rather than sending them to jail, sending them to the penitentiary where they become professional criminals, we give them a second chance. We put them in a rehab program. We put them in a treatment center. We put them in a boot camp. Give them these options rather than sending them to prison where they're going to become professional criminals and the recidivism rate is going to continue on. I'm kind of like, no, I'm tough on crime. That's what us Republicans do. But it really got me thinking. I am curious-minded about concepts and ideas. So that brought me to having conversations. And, long story short, that single conversation led to Texas leading the nation with criminal justice reform. Texas Public Policy Foundation, that now Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins was operating in the mid to late 2000s. They came on board, saw this, supported it. We passed it through a very Republican, very conservative legislature, and Texas led the nation in criminal justice reform. Saved us billions of dollars. We stopped building prisons. We stopped sending people to prison where they were becoming professional criminals. So that template, if you will, was what we took to Donald Trump in 2018. And he was just like me initially. I'm tough on crime. But he was open. He was curious. Brooke Rollins, interestingly, had come up and was his domestic policy advisor at that time, and she made the pitch, and he was open. And that conversation led to him being open to federal criminal justice reform. And today, there are people who, you may have different ideas about President Trump and what have you. I know that's the case. But on this issue of criminal justice reform, this man was curious, he was open-minded, and he's made a real difference in people's lives, following the Texas model. The reason I share that with you as a example, that's where I was on these compounds, these drugs, these psychedelics. I grew up in the 60s. Timothy O'Leary using LSD, marijuana, any of that kind of stuff. It was anathema to me. Absolutely and totally. I don't have anything to do with it. This is crazy stuff. You get in trouble, they'll throw you in jail, you'll jump off of buildings. Every story that you can imagine, that people. And then think about from the 60s forward, how, I went into the Air Force. We took drug tests at least monthly. So the idea of being involved with a drug was just totally and absolutely not on my radar screen. These are bad things. And we're reinforced in the 80s with Mrs. Reagan. Just say no to drugs. Here's your brain on drugs. We have been browbeat as a society for 60 years. And when you add to it what President Nixon did in the late 60s, early 70s, with his war on drugs. He hated hippies, he hated blacks, and one of the ways you could go after them was to go make these compounds Schedule 1, which he did. Schedule 1 says there is no medical purpose for it, and it is highly addictive. Ibogaine fits neither of those. Ibogaine is not an addictive compound by any sense of the imagination.
It's also absolutely not a recreational
No, sir,
compound.
at all.
It's not something that someone can
And
do at a party.
we are proving without a doubt to the Texas legislature, to legislatures across this country, in Mississippi, in Tennessee, in Arizona, West Virginia, that it does have a medical purpose, that there are some extraordinary things that can happen for their citizens who have PTSD, who have sexual trauma, who have addictions. I mean, saving lives by the thousands, hundreds of thousands, I would suggest to you, when this is approved across the country, and we see it as a relatively easily studied and accessed by medical care compound. So that story of seeing these two young men who have given everything, literally, up to willing to give their lives, and a lot of their friends did, for our freedoms and our liberties in this country. And for us to say to them, oh, sorry, you can't have access to this because, President Nixon said this was bad stuff back 60 years ago. And it was taken off the shelf as a Schedule I drug, put over here, and for 60 years, Americans have suffered through so many different eras. The late 90s, when the Sackler family and Purdue Pharma comes along. And we literally, I think one of the most demonic things I've seen in my public life is this family who used oxycodone and sold it to America as this be-all, end-all. And then our federal government in the mid-2000s, we didn't know how to deal with these young men who would be put in these horrible conditions and positions of being at war, time after time after time, rotation after rotation, tempos that we'd never seen before in the history of mankind, I'll suggest to you. I mean, Joe, we were at war for 20 years. 20 years during that period of time. There's special operators that were deployed 8, 9, 10 times. And then they come home and the governor gives them a sack of opioids and that makes them feel crappy, and they mask it with alcohol, and we sit around and go, why did Bobby kill himself? Well, because the government failed in its great responsibility to take care of these young men and women, in my opinion. So we owe it to them. As a matter of fact, a dear friend of mine who just passed away within the last 2 days, he had worked with me for 30 years. And when he first saw that I was getting involved with this psychedelic drug, this ibogaine compound, and we were having a conversation, he said, you need to be really careful with that. You've got a great reputation. You spent 40 years building that reputation up. He said, you don't want to throw it away on some cockamamie idea here. And I told him, I said, well, I don't think I'm doing that. I've studied this pretty intently. I've talked to a host of different people. And I said, so I'm comfortable about the science here that I'm seeing and what have you. And I said, I think it's worth going forward with. I said, Ray, their lives are not worth more than my reputation. And that's what kind of continues to drive me. There are people that still, I say, why are you doing this? Because I believe in it. I mean, I believe it to the point, Joe, that I'm willing to risk my reputation.
This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. A lot of people get finances. It can help you manage the stress. BetterHelp will switch to another therapy. I don't think you're risky. It's that were adopted in the 1970s.
And we're winning. I mean, I'm telling you what Americans for Ibogaine has done. And, we started out, I tell people, I said, you talk about a small group of people. I think there were 6 of us. He's the CEO, I'm the chairman. We got Dr. Rulin, who's the secretary, Ann Claire Stapleton, the communications person, and then Marcus and Melanie Luttrell, Marcus's wife, are the other two members of our little board. And we were this small little group kind of going along and doing what we were doing. We were successful in the Texas legislature and what have you. But it's exploded now. We have ambassadors, Americans for Ibogaine ambassadors all over the United States now. People have seen what we've been able to do in Texas. Mississippi followed suit. They sent their governor a piece of legislation. I want you to talk about that.
We're going to do the roll call here.
Yeah, and share with Joe and his audience just the great progress that's being made. And quite frankly, I think about Michael Dell when he was selling computers out of the trunk of his car back in the late 80s and then his college dormitory. AFI kind of found itself like that just a few months ago. And I'm not trying to say that, we're Dell Computer today, but we are growing at such a leaps and bounds and having the resources that we need to be able to put our people in various places. I mean, travels all, you were in Cabo. I want you to tell them about the group that you met with in Cabo and just 200 of these extraordinary people down there. He travels all over the country. And, we have to have the resources to be able to do that. And so I hope the folks that are listening, go to Americans for Ibogaine, how to tell them how to do that and help this organization, because this is what I'm going to do the rest of my life. I'm 76 years old, and this is what I hope the Lord gives me a lot of years to make a difference, because I know for a fact that what we're doing today, what you're helping us with, is making a difference. And if we can get these clinical trials to the conclusion, and thank you to the Lieutenant Governor and to the Speaker for what they committed to today. I mean, to know that we're going to be able to go forward now with these clinical trials to show the world exactly what we know, but so that the naysayers out there, the skeptic, can look at that and go, you know what? You can get 85% of the people who are hooked on opioids clean in 72 hours.
Isn't that amazing?
That's such a stunning thing to me. Dr. Gull Dolan, we were at South by Southwest a week and a half ago. She was sitting on the stage. She's an MD, PhD, was at Johns Hopkins. She's over at Cal Berkeley now. And she gave a little primer, if you will, on the different psychedelics. There's a critical period that the mind opens up, and you're able to go in and if you will, the medicine treats the mind. I think from my Aggie, non-pharmaceutical, non-scientific mind here, but to go in and reset the brain. The technical word is neuroplasticity, but ketamine has a critical period. I think she said 48 to 72 hours. Psilocybin has a critical period from 14 to 28 days. I think I'm pretty close on these. But Ibogaine, the critical period, the time when that neuroplasticity is active and the brain can be trained, healed, reset, is from 90 to 120 days. And then with the addiction, opioids, which I happen to think is one of the most addictive substances that's out there. And this is some horrible stuff, this very current event with Tiger Woods and Tiger's accident. He had OxyContin. It is, I'm not judging here, but I'm just kind of saying that when I ran for president in 2011, I'd had major back surgery. In July, I announced that I was running for president in August. I had 6 weeks to try to get over that major back surgery, and I had a terrible condition called a neurological hyperfusion in my right leg. I've never had a pain like that. It felt like a blowtorch going down my right leg. And they gave me OxyContin. and I was taking that to cover up the pain. I was taking Ambien to go to sleep at night, and I was taking some stuff called Provigil to get back up in the morning and be focused. I laugh about it now. I'm surprised I did as well as I did in that presidential effort in 2011. Hell, forgetting that one thing, that third thing in that debate. Hell, I'm surprised I could remember any of them, knowing what I know now about OxyContin and the incredibly nasty, addictive nature that it has. I mean, this stuff is just poison. And Ibogaine, in 48 to 72 hours after one dose, one oral application of this compound, and that addiction is gone. Not only is that addiction gone, Joe, but Stanford has done functional MRIs on an addicted opioid brain, and then treatment with Ibogaine, and they have shown that brain from the addicted look that those experts, those postdocs that look at this, to a normal brain scan in 72 hours. If you were to go through the normal process of healing yourself of opioid addiction through an abstinence program, it would take you 18 months. And there are very few, I'm going to say single-digit people that are successful in being able to do that. But think about that. We got a compound here that has the ability to heal people of opioid addiction in 48 to 72 hours. And we're not doing everything that we can in our power to make that available. I mean, what the hell's wrong with us? How bad you gotta hate people to not make that available?
Och med oss nu är Jonas. Du är snickaren som blev trött på att få dina verktyg stulna ur jobbbilen.